The Truth About Vaccines is a riveting new docuseries that exposes the truth behind vaccines. Do vaccinations confer immunity? Are there natural options to vaccinations? What questions should you ask before you vaccinate? Were vaccines responsible for the decline in polio, smallpox, and pertussis? What about the flu shot and the HPV vaccine? Are they safe? Why do outbreaks occur mostly in vaccinated populations? There's so many questions around vaccines, and we need to expose the truth. That's why I'm inviting you to watch the brand new docuseries that is coming up in April, and you can attend for free. Go to learntruehealth.com/vaccines. That's learntruehealth.com/vaccines to enroll to watch the free screening of the revolutionary docuseries, The Truth About Vaccines. There's over 60 scientists and expert doctors in boosting the immune system and in understanding vaccines and how they work. They're here to teach us for free what we can do naturally to boost the immune system and fully understand the impact that vaccines have on our lives, on our bodies, and on our children. We need to expose this information for the sake of ourselves and our future. Go to learntruehealth.com/vaccines and sign up now so that you can get free access as the docuseries comes out in April. Because knowledge is power, watching this will help you and empower you and your family to make the best choices you can for your future. learntruehealth.com/vaccines. Welcome to the Learn True Health podcast. I'm your host, Ashley James. This is episode 116. Boy, oh boy, what an amazing topic we have to talk about today with expert Rob Jacobs. I've always been intrigued by these standing desks at work and these treadmills we see people walking on. And now we're talking to a creator of the revolutionary Unsit standing desk and treadmill. I'm so excited to have you on the show. You have such an extensive background in the health and wellness industry, helping people learn how to break the unhealthy habits of sitting too much, which I am the first person to raise their hand. I think I sit way too much. And so I'm really interested to learn from you today how we can learn new healthy habits, especially all of us who are super busy, to get to move our body more and gain health back. Thank you, Rob, so much for coming on the show.
Hey, Ashley, thank you for having me on the show. Really honored and a pleasure to be part of it. Where do you want me to start?
Well, I'd love for you to start by sharing your story.
Well, like you, I was intrigued by this whole movement, no pun intended, also seeing people on treadmill desks. I sort of observed it a number of years back. I saw Dr. James Levine on I think Good Morning America with a treadmill desk, and being a fitness instructor and a fitness trainer, exercise physiologist by background, I at first sort of poo-pooed it. I thought it was, it wasn't enough exercise to cause any real health effect. So I didn't pay much attention to it. Then I started seeing it catch on, and I started looking into it further. I read Dr. Levine's book, and I realized there's something really to this. Then I started trying to craft my own treadmill desk, because the ones in the market were literally like Dr. Levine had done. They just taken a treadmill, stuck it under a desk, not a lot of changes to the design to really make it function for an office environment and for working at a desk. And that's sort of what led me to where I am. So some of the things that I observed along the way, first, my story a little bit is exercise physiology has always been a passion of mine. I got out of college, started sitting around at a desk job and gained a lot of weight, and largely for vanity reasons back in those days. I wanted to get in shape and lose weight. And I started doing aerobics exercise classes. This goes back to the 1980s when Jane Fonda was all the craze. And I was there largely for social reasons. I was, one of the only straight guys in a aerobics class with a bunch of attractive ladies, and enjoyed hanging out there. And so developed a social life around fitness, but got into great shape doing that. And that was the first time in my life where I was exercising for fitness as opposed to sports. In college, I played a lot of sports and activities, so exercise was more about, sports, basketball, baseball, football. But now it became about staying in shape and getting fit and healthy. And then I went back to school, took a program at exercise physiology at UCLA, and furthered my interest in health and wellness. Later went on to work at the Pritikin Longevity Center here in Santa Monica, which was a live-in and an outpatient lifestyle program that used exercise and diet to help reverse degenerative diseases such as heart disease and diabetes. So I saw firsthand under a doctor-supervised program the power and the effect of both exercise and diet, food intake, that could really have a huge impact on people who had, frankly, life-threatening diseases. One of the things I observed at the Pritikin program was they were using motorized treadmills, and this goes, again, back to the late 1970s, early 80s. I was watching the use of a motorized treadmill for pacing someone through an exercise program, and this then leads up to what I'm doing today. Most exercise equipment, the user sits on the equipment and has to pedal a bike or move an elliptical trainer or row a rowing simulator. So the user has to put effort in, and psychologically they have to move the machine. And it takes a lot of effort, and it takes a lot of willpower. And for somebody who doesn't want to exercise, and exercise is not natural, I always point that out to people. It's not something that we naturally do in the world. Indigenous living people did it because they had to. But by nature, we tend to want to hunker down and conserve energy. So getting people to go out there and motivate themselves to move and to exercise is something that requires a lot of mental effort. A treadmill, because of the fact that it's motorized, you have to keep up with the speed of the belt. So it's the only exercise machine where it's making you have to go. And they're used very effectively. That's why doctors use them for a treadmill stress test when they're evaluating the condition of your heart. If anybody's ever had that done, they put you on a motorized treadmill because they can very precisely control the speed and the intensity of the exercise, and they can keep the patient moving at the speed they want them to go. And then by the same effect, a fitness instructor in a gym can do the same thing. I could take somebody who's exercising for with the goal being weight loss or just cardiovascular health. I could pace them, put a heart rate meter on them, and put them at the correct speed and elevation that would cause them to be at the right aerobic, the aerobic exertion level that I want them to be at by just simply pushing a button, adjusting the motor, the speed of the treadmill faster, slower, or the elevation of the treadmill faster, slower. So motorized treadmills have a unique use in being able to pace people through exercise, make them have to go and have to keep up. And then I went off and started my own business called the Walking Center, which was in Beverly Hills at the time, and videos were still rather novel. And I was marketing to housewives in the middle of the day who didn't have a lot to do and wanted to exercise and lose weight. And my program was come in and watch a video for an hour and a half, and walk on the treadmill. The treadmill would pace you, just enjoy the movie, and women were losing weight and having a fantastic time with a very moderate exercise program. So I was dialing the intensity way back from what I used to do in the aerobics dance programs, which were very high intensity. And I brought it down to 55, 60% of maximum heart rate, because that was a pace that people could do without a lot of sweat and perspiration and without a lot of huffing and puffing, and they could enjoy a movie. So I had a library of videos that I did a trade with a video store up the street, had a library of videos, come in, pick out a movie, walk for an hour or two. And that was my program, and people had a really positive experience and got a lot of terrific results. They started buying the treadmills from me, and very quickly I became a distributor and dealer of motorized treadmills. We were installing those at movie stars' homes around Greater LA area, and got into the fitness and exercise equipment business, which I'm still in today. We're involved in service, parts, and repairs for health clubs and fitness centers around the country. And then fast forward to today, somewhere in there, my wife and I opened up a chain of organic vegan restaurants that we still have today. But that's a tangent story you can ask me about later. But in my lifestyle, again, I found myself sitting a lot, and all kinds of mild repercussions of that: back ailments, neck and shoulder stiffness and tightness. Noticing a few inches picking up around the waistline. And in my lifestyle, it's just part of my identity that being fit and in shape is very important. And no matter how hard you work out in the gym, if you sit around all day, you can't undo the damage that you do by sitting all day, simply going to the gym for an hour at the end of the day or in the morning at the beginning of the day. So back to Dr. Levine's book that talks about where he lays out the science and the studies that have been done that show how a lack of movement and prolonged sitting can have so many ill health effects. I got really inspired by this and started fashioning my own treadmill desk. So I have a company where we repair and provide technical support for fitness centers and maintaining their exercise equipment. So I started taking apart treadmills, making them wider, shorter, varying the speed, getting the desk height adjusted right. And I came up with our own treadmill desk. I like to call it a walking desk. But most people refer to it as a treadmill desk. So we made the product, quite a bit wider than a typical fitness treadmill where you're sort of stuck on one line like being on a tightrope. And we made it half the length, so you don't have this huge thing hanging out the back of your desk that you don't need. Because when you're at a treadmill desk, you're going very slowly. I'm walking on one right now during this interview, and I'm walking just a little over 1 mile an hour, which most people would not consider to be exercise or a workout. But the fact that you're not sitting, it's actually extremely beneficial to your health. So we made the treadmill very wide so I can walk all the way over to the one side of my desk and use my phone and my computer. I can walk over to the other side of the desk and look at papers or books I may have stored there. It's wide enough to share with 2 people, although that's not really recommended for that. But my kids do their homework side by side on this thing. And then it's extremely quiet. Your users probably can't even hear it running right now, but we made it as quiet as possible so that it can be used in an office environment without disturbing your coworkers. And then we made it extremely safe. If I step off and walk away, the treadmill automatically comes to a stop, so it can't move unless there's somebody on it. And no other treadmill has done that. So that's kind of an overview. I don't know if I went too fast and covered everything, or if you want to lead me around with some questions there. But.
Wow, that is so fascinating. The first thing that comes to my mind is do people fall off these things?
I haven't heard of that happening. It's technically possible, but you're walking so slowly, and there is, you have a desk edge to hold on to for balance. If somebody's capable of walking on a treadmill in a gym for exercise, they're certainly capable of doing this. Somebody might have balance issues, an elderly person. I might caution them a little bit, but we've got a lot of these in use now, and nobody's reported falling down yet. I don't think there's any more risk of falling off of this than there is on going for a walk outside.
Ah, very interesting. Yes, I do not hear it at all. That's very quiet, which is really cool. It's funny. I think about going on a treadmill and working at a desk, and I think that I'd get too distracted. Like walking would make me not be able to concentrate on work. But that's not what you're saying. You're saying it's the opposite.
I'm finding it to be the opposite. I just had a customer who wrote in the other day where he had to be without his for a few days. He was on a business trip and he couldn't wait to get back home because it helps him focus on what he's doing. He found it more focusing to be walking. Look, at first there's an adaptation. And like with any change of lifestyle habit, there's an initial effort you have to put out to want to change the habit. And that goes with any lifestyle habit that you might want to change. At first it's hard, it feels awkward. And the example I always used to give in one of my lectures is I would ask people to clasp their hands together and interlace their fingers. And if your audience reaches apart, puts their hands apart, and then brings their hands together and clasp their hands, interlace your fingers, you'll find there's a certain pattern, which index finger stacks up first and how people interlace their fingers. Then if you ask them to do that again and go off by one finger, so change the interlace by one, it feels extremely awkward to people to change the pattern of how they interlace their fingers. It's really strange feeling. It does not feel natural. But why? It's just become a habit. One way is a habit. They're used to it. So if you over and over and over again do the new way, and you push and push and push over and over again, eventually that starts to feel natural. So like any lifestyle change, any change of habits, the first week or 2 or 3 are going to feel a little bit awkward. You've got to use some mental willpower. You've got to set up whatever motivational techniques work for you. Having the goals written down in front of you, restating the goals for you and the values you hope to get out of it. And so that you can push yourself through that first few days. So when I started walking on a treadmill desk, my typing skills fell way down. It was awkward to type. I do a lot of typing. I've always been a fast and accurate typer. And so, in this day and age, emails and things you do on your computer, people are keyboarding all the time. I found that very frustrating. My emails had a lot of typos in it. I was having to go back and make corrections. I couldn't type as fast. There were a couple of times I'd step off the treadmill and run to the printer. This is before I had built my own, when I was using just a fitness treadmill and the belt was still running. So there were awkward, stumbling moments. But after a couple of weeks, I started getting used to that. My typing speed, my typing accuracy returned. It's I'd say, very close to the same accuracy and speed as I am sitting. And you get used to being on the treadmill desk platform. So all those things start to mellow out and you start to get used to the new way of life. And now I'm in an office now. We have a home office at my house where I'm recording this from. And I have 2 treadmill desks in here. One's for the kids. They do their homework on. The other one's mine. My wife uses it sometimes. Then we've got 2 standing desks. My wife uses most of the time, and she's on a balance board and some other effects. But there are no chairs, count them, 0 chairs in our work area office. We have a living room where we might enjoy a movie at night or something. We have sofas and lounge chairs there. We might sit down and relax. But I see the modern work lifestyle is changing quickly and dramatically. And in a few years, I think most office settings and schools will be without chairs. And people will be standing, walking on treadmill desks, using balance boards, a variety of means to stay comfortable on your feet. And then throughout the day, they'll take sitting breaks. And right now, Ashley, that's reversed. Right now, the typical office lifestyle is you're sitting all day, and then you get up for a coffee break where you walk around a little bit and get your legs moving, right? I mean, how many people have been, after 3-4 hours of sitting at their computer, they want to go up and walk around, and they take a short walking break. Mm-hmm. And what I'm proposing is that that's going to invert. And then not more than a few years from now, it's starting to happen now, but within a few years, it'll be the opposite. You'll walk to work, and you'll be walking most of the day, and then you'll take short sitting breaks of 15, 20 minutes and a lunch break, maybe 30 minutes where you're having a meal and you're sitting for that. There'll never be a shortage of sitting. You know, you sit in cars, you sit in conferences, you sit in movie theaters, you sit down to have a meal. So there's plenty of time to sit, and people will always get plenty of time to sit. What we have to make an effort for is getting as much standing and moving and walking time into our lifestyles as possible. So I'm convinced the typical workday will be a couple hours of walking in the morning, while you're doing your phone calls, returning emails, doing that sort of work. You'll take a short break and you'll sit for a few minutes. Maybe you'll sit to read something that requires a little bit more mental focus, then get back up and walk another couple hours while you're working. But sitting around on the job is something that's going to go away for a variety of reasons, health reasons, fitness reasons, productivity reasons, and creativity reasons. I find I'm more creative and I come up with ideas more when I'm up walking around. And you know, how many of your listeners have ever had the breakthrough where they're struggling with a problem, they're trying to come up with a solution for something, they go out for a walk and it hits them when they're on the walk, or they're exercising in the gym and then the idea comes to them. That is such a common experience that people have, and great thinkers often refer to it. You know, they go off for a walk and they come up with a problem. And then Nikola Tesla invented the AC induction motor while walking around on the beach, and you know, Steve Jobs was famous for taking engineers out on walks in his backyard to think of new solutions. Reagan and Gorbachev, you know, ended the Cold War on a walk in Reykjavik, Iceland. So, you know, walking is a great time for increasing your mental prowess and stimulating ideas and creativity. In terms of fitness, do you want me to circle back on that? Because you would ask me on the fitness front. I don't like people to think of treadmill desks as a fitness or exercise workout like you might do in a gym, because it's not. You're not accelerating your heart rate to the point where you're going to get a big increase in your cardiovascular conditioning. It's not that. I still would encourage people who have a treadmill desk to continue whatever exercise regimen they've been on. If they haven't, they should be on an exercise regimen, you know, that includes stretching and strength training and cardiovascular training, because this does not do that. All this does is get you out of your chair so you're not sitting. And sitting is so damaging to your health that we've got to do something to get people up and moving again. And I equate sitting to smoking, and you may have heard that sitting is the new smoking.
I have heard that sitting is the new smoking. That's so funny. You know, yeah, I agree with you. There are definitely health benefits to pushing the body slightly out of its comfort zone to stretch and strengthen the muscles and the cardiovascular system. So we know that there's health benefits to that. But then walking, so non-cardiovascular walking, where you're not necessarily raising your heart rate to, like, you know, an anaerobic or aerobic. It's not like going to 120. Maybe you're raising your heart rate to 90. Whereas when you're sitting, maybe it's 60, right? And so you're raising your heart rate maybe a little bit, but you're not out of breath. Obviously, you're not out of breath. You're just walking 1 or 1.5 miles an hour. There's definitely a lot of health benefits to walking. I know that we can talk more about the creativity and how you have this study quoted on your website, an extensive study at Stanford University, confirming that creativity increases up to 60% when subjects are walking on the treadmill. And I find that fascinating. Definitely want to talk a bit about that. But let's talk a little bit about the benefits of just walking. Now, can I go for a walk and be like maybe 1.5 miles an hour walk outside, and it'd be pretty much the same as a treadmill? Or is a treadmill like, is there a difference, or can I get the same benefits?
Okay, now there's a whole school of debate about is walking on a treadmill different than walking outside, and there are several things that are different about it. The biomechanics are slightly different, and there's a woman whose book I'm forgetting right now, but I can run over there and find it. It's on my bookshelf, who promotes walking outdoors as opposed to on a treadmill, that there is a difference, and there is, but from all practical purposes, no, you're getting the same, you're expending the same amount of energy. I'm walking 1.3 miles an hour right now during this interview as I would be walking outdoors. Maybe it's slightly less. The mechanics are slightly different. There are some advantages to being outdoors, and I enjoy being outdoors, and I encourage people to get outside and walk. But in our work lifestyle and in schools, there's so many hours a day where you simply cannot, and having a treadmill and being able to do it indoors and to be able to pace the activity, has a tremendous amount of benefit. So on the heart rate side, I'm palpating mine right now. I'm probably pacing at about 70 beats per minute. I rest at about 55 for myself. So I've got a fair, lower than most average resting heart rate. So it's very slow. I'm not trying to get my heart rate up. I don't want to be perspiring and breaking a sweat. I don't want to be at that level of exertion while I'm in an office or while I'm in school or while I'm doing desk work. So it's not that. The benefits are the fact that I got you out of the chair and you're not sitting. It's no different, Ashley, than if somebody was a chain smoker and smoked all day long, and I came up, I gave them some chewing gum and got them to stop smoking because they started chewing gum. Now and then their health improved. Now, is the health improved because of the chewing gum, or is it improved because they gave up the cigarettes? And the answer is their health improved because I got them to give up the cigarettes. The chewing gum was just a way to take away the cigarettes. And the treadmill desk, I think, is largely a way to take away the chair. And I'm convinced in 20 years, we're going to look back on this time, certainly in 40 or 50 years, they're going to look back on this era when people sat in chairs all day long. And they're going to wonder why we did that to our kids, because in the education front, it's a disaster. I've got one boy who's in a special ed school where a lot of kids have attention issues. My boy doesn't. He's got some reading issues. But the point is that these kids who have this rampant problem with attention issues, kids not being able to focus, then the teachers tell them to sit in the chair and focus. I just want to cringe when I hear that instruction, because you can't sit down and focus. Your body wants to move, and it wants to be up and moving around, and you can actually focus more and focus better when your body's up and engaged. So again, it's not so much what we did to you, getting you to move. It's more about what we stopped you from sitting. And therein lies the huge benefits. Because if you run down, and a lot of these studies and information, I'll talk about that Stanford study in a minute, is posted on our website at unsit.com. There's a newsroom subsection to that. We've got the articles broken out on creativity, productivity, and then health and fitness. But the impacts of sitting are devastating from a physiological point of view. Starting at the bottom of your feet, I think of the bottom of the feet as like a switch that connects directly to the brain. And when you stand up and put weight on the bottom of your feet, put your whole body weight onto your feet, it sends a signal right up to your brain that we're awake. There could be threats out there that we have to watch out for. There could be opportunities that we might want to take advantage of. And imagine, humans as early hunter-gatherers roaming around the plains of Africa, and they're looking for what might eat them and what might there be out there for them to eat. And they got to be very alert, very aware. There might be problems to solve and opportunities to take advantages of. But the brain gets that signal to turn on and avoid threats and seek out opportunities and take advantage of them. It gets that signal from the feet when there's weight on the feet. Now, sit down in a chair and take the weight off your feet. It's literally a signal back to the brain that, we must be resting now. There's no longer threats. There's no longer opportunities. And it turns off a lot of those functions in the brain that are solving problems, that are seeking out opportunities. It turns those functions in the brain off. It starts to actually get a signal that we might as well go to sleep, because if there's no threats, there's no opportunities, let's rest and let's conserve energy. So then physiologically, the calorie burn starts to drop lower and lower and lower, almost down to 1 calorie a minute. You're almost asleep at that point from a physiological point of view. Everything shuts down. Now you're sitting in a chair, a right angle contraption. And our early ancestors probably did not have chairs. They squatted, so they had a lot of stretching and movement of their whole skeletal frame. But we don't. We're stuck in this right angle contraption, and now we're putting pressure on the back of the legs and on the back of the glutes, the thighs, and the butt muscles, where these are the biggest muscles in the body that support our back and support our whole frame. But now We've stuck it in a right angle contraption. Those muscles are shut off. The back can no longer be supported. You're impeding blood circulation down to the lower part of the body. You've effectively shut off about 3/4 of the musculature of your body by sitting in a chair. Those muscles are now asleep. There's very little circulation going there. Then you're putting pressure on the nerves that innervate the whole lower part of the body, because your body wasn't meant to sit on its tush and on the thighs that long. So you're getting pressure on those nerves. That can lead to all kinds of tingling nerve pain that people probably have when they sit too long. Then if you start to work your way up the spine is now curved the wrong direction when you sit. You're supposed to have a nice S curve to your back, and the lumbar spine is supposed to curve forward. But when you sit in the chair, it curves the other way, and it squishes those discs backwards. Now you're putting pressure on all those nerves that come out the back. People get sciatic nerve pain, and then that migrates up to the shoulders. You start making adjustments in your shoulders and neck. People have neck impingements and pain and discomfort up there. Now you're off to the chiropractor or the massage therapist, or worse, you're going to a orthopedic surgeon to try to solve all those problems. But I'm telling you, Ashley, those problems are rooted in sitting in a right angle contraption all day long. Then from a blood sugar point of view, it's a complete disaster. You're sitting so long, your calorie burn has dropped to near zero. And now it's hard you're starting to get a sleepy feeling, because again, your brain's been sent a signal that it's time to go to sleep. So you start to get sleepy. So what most Americans do is they're reaching for a cup of coffee and donuts. And why? They have to have that caffeine and sugar to stimulate them to stay awake, because you're sitting in a chair. But you can be much more effective at being alert and awake by simply being on your feet and moving and walking. But we're stuck in chairs, so they're reaching for the caffeine and the sugar. And now you've got a huge sugar rush into your bloodstream, and your body has to get that sugar out of there and get your blood sugar normalized again. And you're not moving, so you can't do it the natural way. The natural way to be to walk and move and burn that sugar back down to a normal blood sugar level. So it has to pump out insulin into the bloodstream and try to get that sugar out of the bloodstream and store it as glycogen. So the pancreas is working on overtime, and it's trying to crank, and eventually, years of doing that, the pancreas will become ineffective. The insulin that it's putting out is not as effective, and the cells in the muscles that are supposed to respond to that insulin and store the sugar become insulated from it, and they're not as effective. And so then you're leading down the path toward diabetes, and it's rampant. It's rampant in modern society. You now have adult onset diabetes, which we used to not see till people got into their 40s or 50s. You're now seeing that in teenagers and children. It's shocking. It's because they're sitting too long, and they're not up and moving. They're taking in too much sugar, and they're not burning it all day long. So that's the physiological fitness side of it. Again, the results are that we got you out of the chair and got you moving. That's why these things are so darn effective. But I rattled off a few and touched on them. Again, Dr. James Levine wrote the book on this. It's called Get Up. I encourage people to buy that and read it. There's some good summaries of it on our website. And I've also got a couple of nice videos on there, that explainer videos that sum those stories up. But I hope I rattled people a little bit, because they should be, to get up out of their chair and start moving. If you're listening to this in a chair, you could be up on your feet doing some movement, or take it on a podcast and take a walk where you're listening to it on your iPhone.
Absolutely. You know, I love what you shared, because I was going to touch on blood sugar. It's so interesting that when we start to move our body, that our cells will use up the excess blood sugar more efficiently. And it doesn't even have to be aerobic, just moving your body can actually help to balance blood sugar. And blood sugar, unregulated blood sugar, so swings that are too high and swings that are too low, are directly related to causing depression and causing symptoms that feel a lot like bipolar disorder. I've known several people, myself included, that when they cleared up their blood sugar issues, their mood instability also resolved itself. So there's that. And then, like you said, another thing about blood sugar is that around 3 p.m., everyone gets that kind of like almost like post-Thanksgiving dinner, lethargy. And so absolutely, it's like that brain fog kicks in, the low oxygen level, our brain's like not being fed oxygen, and we've got crazy blood sugar going on, really low energy, and then we go to the vending machine or the coffee shop and get caffeinated up and sugared up, which is just feeding the problem, not just a Band-Aid, absolutely causing it to be worse. And walking, which is helping with helping the body regulate blood sugar. Another really great thing about walking is that it pumps the lymph system, And the lymph system is the delivery system of the immune system. And so you're supporting your immune system, which fights cancer, fights off, all the pathogens. By pumping the lymph system, you're actually helping the body remove toxins, pull toxins away from the cells. And just by walking, you're helping the body increase circulation to the 37.5 trillion cells in your body. So you're bringing more nutrition, more oxygen, and more nutrients to the cells, and then helping bring the garbage, the waste, away from the cells. So it's like bringing the groceries into the home and taking the garbage out, and that becoming a more efficient, on a cellular level, to prevent disease on a cellular level. Those are the two things to do, is bring in more nutrition and take away the garbage. And so just by walking, we're stimulating the body to do that. And another really big thing, just by walking, we stimulate the body's ability to produce ATP. The ATP is cellular energy. And I love this concept, because when people think I'm too tired to walk, that's my big excuse. I go, oh, I'm too tired to go for a walk. I'm too tired to go for the gym. And then I have to remind myself physiologically what happens when we just start to move. 5 minutes of walking, you've already kicked on the body's ability to produce ATP, and you end up having more energy after your walk. And so the reason why you're sitting and then not having a lot of energy is because your body went into, like you said, went into that sort of like that sleep mode, to reserve power. And that's why you're feeling tired. It's not because you don't have the energy. You've got to kick on the energy production factories in your cells.
Well, actually, I commend everything you're saying, and you'd be a terrific advocate for our new company. But I would take it a step further and say that when people say they're too tired to walk, I would tell them they're too tired because they're not walking. That's why they're too tired. They've been sitting too long, and that's why they're not tired. And in terms of balancing blood sugar, walking and moving your body is the body's way of balancing blood sugar. It doesn't just help. It is how your body controls and balances blood sugar. So if you're not up on your feet moving, all that's left is the pancreas, and the pancreas can't keep up with that load, especially if you're pouring down refined sugar and then caffeine on top of that. You talk about that afternoon 3 o'clock lethargy. I used to have that problem immensely when I worked in an office environment, and I don't have it anymore, because by the time I get to 3 o'clock, I've already walked 6 miles. I've covered almost 2 just doing this interview. And for 4,300 steps I've already taken. So by the time I get to the afternoon, I've covered 4 or 5 miles. That's more than most people do in a week. And I haven't sweat. I haven't exerted myself. I'm not feeling sore or tired. I don't have to go take a stretch break. Your body's meant to walk all day long, and it can comfortably do it. And so if you want to break you want to break that caffeine cycle, if you want to break that blood sugar roller coaster, if you want to get rid of that afternoon nodding off foggy brain experience, I encourage people to find a way to be up on their feet and work out, get out of their chair and work on their feet more often.
Absolutely, Rob. And I love this. I love this concept. And I love that you reinvented the treadmill specifically for working at the desk, because I always thought it was a really cool idea. I've seen these things before, like on The Biggest Loser a few seasons ago. They're like, oh, look, you win the standing desk treadmill. Yay. And I looked at it, and I'm like, that, first of all, is not going to fit in any office. It is huge and clunky. And it just looks like you chopped off a treadmill's arms and put a desk on. It doesn't look like it was ergonomically designed to work at. It didn't look like a real workstation. And so I love that what you did is you started from scratch, and you're like, okay, someone is standing and working at a computer, and now let's design ability for them to walk while they're working. Because I'm looking at the pictures on your website, and by the way, listeners, the links to everything that Rob Jacobs does and is talked about today is going to be in the links. The links are going to be in the show notes of today's podcast, including his great desk treadmill and the standing desk. And the standing desk is adjustable, so if you do have a chair, you can sit at your desk, and then you adjust it so it goes up and down, so you can stand and you can sit, which is really cool. Because I think when someone first gets this, like, do you think there's an adjustment period? Like someone who's completely sedentary, they're used to sitting 8 hours a day at their desk, they're not going to just start walking 8 hours, right? How does that work?
Yep, there's going to be an adjustment period, especially if you're deconditioned. And I wouldn't advise people to try to take on 8 hours a day, although some people do it. I did it, but I was already what happened to me in my personal life is that I was experimenting with crafting a new product. So I would try it for an hour or two and I go back to my sitting desk, and then 3 or 4 and go back to my sitting desk. And then I started finding I'm moving things from my sitting desk to my standing desk. My papers got moved over. My computer station got more permanently set up here. My desks, my pens and papers. And then pretty soon the printer got here and the scanner. And now I look back one day and I realize there's nothing left on my sitting desk. And I rounded up, I had 4 Herman Miller Aeron chairs. These were $800 chairs. I got a family of 4. And I ended up putting them all on eBay and selling them all. They're gone. And I got rid of the 30-inch height sitting desks. And so we all have standing desks. Now, they do adjust up and down. You could take it down to sitting level. We never do anymore. But to circle back to your question, I would encourage people to plan probably a 4 to 6 week transition period where, like you say, you might try this for half an hour the first day. You might try it. You work up to the second week. You're doing an hour at a time. Then you're doing an hour twice a day, hour in the morning, hour in the evening. Then you start extending those hours to 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon. Before you do it, you're doing most of your time on your standing desks. What's interesting, Ashley, is lawyers have turned out to be our biggest customer base. And I'm not exactly sure why, but lawyers are buying more treadmill desks than any other profession. And I think it has to do with, 1, they can afford it. 2, they've got the personality type, sort of an assertive A-type personality. And their job calls for being at a desk for extended periods of time. But lawyers are buying these things. They have the luxury of having essentially 2 desks in their office. They've got the treadmill desk they're spending most of their time at. Then they usually have a little side table where they might have conferences with clients, or they'll use that to sit and review something on occasion. But they're spending 80-90% of their time after a few weeks on the treadmill desk, on phone conferences, on webinars, and on briefing. A lot of these guys dictate their briefs, so they'll either type with a keyboard or they'll dictate into a dictation software, and they're able to spend most of their day. So I would say people should plan 4 to 6 weeks to make the complete transition. Some people may never do it. They may be half and half. But even if I just got you to half and half, even if I just got an hour, even if I could add an hour of walking into somebody's day, it's going to have a huge impact on their health and well-being and their creativity and their productivity. So it's going to be, different for each individual. Everybody should always, consult medical professionals before they start any exercise or exertion program. So, you got to be a good judge of yourself and your capabilities. But in my lifestyle, no, I'm doing it all day long now. The desks do go up and down. They can lower down to the height of a chair. When you have a treadmill underneath it, that becomes a little awkward. There are different chairs and exercise fitness balls that people are sitting on to take a sitting break. But I think of it as I walk when I work, and I take a sitting break occasionally throughout the day. And there is certain type of mental work where for some reason, you just want to sit and focus. There's times when my daughter's in 12th grade now, writing some very high level English papers. When she hands me something to proofread, I've got to sit for that, or I pause the treadmill and I'm just standing. But there are certain mental activities that it just lends itself to being still for. I'm still on my feet a lot, and I spend a lot of my time just standing. And by the way, actually, that's one of the things we built into our app that goes with our product. Is our app actually measures walking time and it measures standing time, because we have technology within the deck that we know if the person's walking or if they're just standing or if they've left the treadmill altogether. That's how we pause and stop the treadmill for safety reasons. But standing is good too. You can't stand that long without getting achy legs. After 10, 15 minutes, your legs start to ache, so you need to get them moving again. To answer your question, I would anticipate 4 to 6 weeks. There should be some sort of alternative sitting area during that transition period. And then it's going to be to each his own. And then let me circle back on the insulin thing, because you mentioned that in your comments, Ashley. In Dr. Levine's book, he described a study that they did in Minnesota where they measured blood sugar response to a certain meal. And they gave 2 groups of people, divided them up, same exact sugar intake, measured their blood sugar response every 15 minutes over 2 hours and graphed it. So if you give somebody a sugary meal, it will spike way up very quickly, the blood sugar, and they've got to respond to that and get that blood sugar back down. And then they had the second group. So they had one group sitting and one group walking at 1 mile an hour for just 15 minutes. 1 mile an hour, that's not very fast, for only 15 minutes. And that group that walked 1 mile an hour for 15 minutes, their blood sugar response to the sugary meal was half of that of the people who did not walk, half. And it wasn't a spike. It was a gentle roll, and it gradually came back down. So when you looked at the graph, you didn't have these blood sugar spikes. You had gradual rolls, half the height. Actually, if the pharmaceutical industry could come up with a drug that could have an effect like that to half the response of blood sugar, it would be a blockbuster drug. It'd be one of the best-selling drugs in America. But we can do it just by walking for only 15 minutes. Now imagine if they walked at 2 miles an hour and they walked for 30 minutes. You see what I'm saying? It doesn't take much to have a huge impact on blood sugar response. And blood sugar response affects your mental outlook, like you said, your mood. It affects creativity. If you don't manage it carefully long-term, there can be devastating physiological effects.
Oh, that's fantastic. And tell us a bit about this Stanford study. It's so interesting.
Yeah, that gets cited a lot. You'll see that on the internet when you search this stuff out, because it was a terrific study. What they did is they took 3 groups of people. They were trying to find out if walking and movement stimulated creativity, and if so, why. And so they took 3 groups of people. They gave them problem-solving tests. So they actually wanted to measure creativity. So they gave them these little puzzles and problem-solving tests that they required creative solutions, and they were actually measuring how creative people were. So group A was sitting. Group B was walking at a treadmill facing a white wall. Group C was walking around the campus of Stanford up in Palo Alto, where there's a beautiful outdoor environment. So they were trying to segregate, was it the walking that did it, or was it the outdoor environment that maybe was causing an increase in creativity? So first of all, the group that was sitting versus the 2 groups that were walking, the 2 groups that were walking had a 60% improvement in their creative problem-solving abilities. 60% by simply going for a walk. 60% increase in creative problem-solving abilities compared to the group that was sitting. Now, guess what the difference was on the 2 groups that were walking, the treadmill group versus the outdoor group? There was no difference. They were the same. They both got the 60% increase. So what that told us is there's something physiological about standing up, moving your legs, and just walking, whether you're facing a white wall or you're walking around in the redwood forest of Palo Alto. Either way, they got that improvement. So something physiologically is happening, and then there's a lot of information about why that's so. Blood circulation, the nerves have to go. We've got an MRI imaging on our website, before and after, a group of somebody walking versus somebody sitting, and you can see the whole area of the brain around creativity heats up and goes red on an MRI when you're up and walking versus when you're quiet and sitting. But that Stanford study was significant because it wasn't a large population of people, but it was enough to show that something's really going on there.
Amazing. I love it. I love anything to help us improve our creativity and our mental clarity and our focus, our emotional well-being, our mental well-being, overall health, and increased metabolism, increased immune system. I mean, the list goes on and on. Now, I would love for all my listeners to have one of these. And for those who can't buy one right now, but really want to gain the benefits of walking, and again, they have a really busy life, can you share some ways that we can help to shift our mindset, shift our habits, shift our patterns so that we can get more walking in?
Well, a lot of it's the way that you got to approach your lifestyle. I mean, the physical environment you live in, of course, has an impact. But first of all, you got to make the mental commitment, the desire to do it. Whether you have a treadmill desk or not, treadmill desk, of course, helps because it changes your indoor environment. But people have to first make the mental commitment and decide this is what they want to happen, state the goals, state the outcomes they want from those goals. There's lots of cool apps that prompt you and remind you to get up out of your chair if you're still working at a desk with a chair, and just get up and take a couple little stretch breaks and just stretch the legs, move around, maybe just walk around the office. Quick side story. My sister, who was an inspiration for this, also worked in a large hospital in Santa Cruz, California, where she was an administrator. She ran the psychiatric department at the county hospital for 25 years. A huge hospital building, walked around all day long as part of her job. She had what was technically an office desk job, but because she was up and moving so often in a large building where she was probably walking 2 to 3 miles a day without even realizing it, she retired from that job and went to work for a private foundation. They put her in a home office in her house in a bedroom. Suddenly she was sitting all day long, and all of a sudden back ailments, tired, lethargic, all from sitting all day long. So circling back to your question, the solutions I gave her were first to just to start taking walking breaks every 20 minutes, get up, walk around the house, go outside, walk around the building. Well, most people are working off of a smartphone now. They're not working off of a desk phone. So if you're on a conference call, and most people with office jobs spend a lot of times on conference calls, you can take that conference call with a set of earbuds and put the mute button on and walk around the outside of the building and just put a few steps in that way. There's also it's easy. There's little devices that convert your sitting desk to standing height. And then there's different balance boards out there. One by Fluid Stance that I like, but there's a variety of them that allow you to balance and shift your weight a little bit so your legs don't get achy. So these are just little things that you can do to be working up out of your chair. But I think people should, the Fitbits and the Garmins, the pedometers that people are wearing, where the goal is to hit 10,000 steps a day. That's a fantastic goal. And those little monitoring devices that measure how many steps you're taking, your iPhone will do it too, or your Android phone. They have the accelerometers. If you put them in your pocket, will measure steps. So if people can set a simple goal of achieving 10,000 steps a day, and they might have to do that, 1,000 here, 1,000 there. Just if you're on a coffee break, instead of drinking the coffee and the donuts, why not take a 10-minute walk and maybe have a piece of fruit at the end of that walk, and try to improve the nutrition intake side as well. So I think all those little things can add up to a lot very quickly. Walking breaks throughout the day, getting up, standing and stretching breaks throughout the day. And then if you can afford and you have the space, one of my walking desks or treadmill desks that we've designed, I think, are a huge asset that can really take it to 100% of the time. I've now clicked past 2 miles and 5,000 steps just on this interview.
Amazing. I think about the people who, like me, do a lot of sitting, or maybe they feel so sedentary they are embarrassed to start exercising. And I remember seeing this picture on Facebook of this really obese man. It's the back of him as he's walking, and it looks like he's sort of running a marathon, but he's walking the marathon. And there, on the back of his shirt, he says something about you may be laughing at me, but I'm lapping the people who are sitting on the couch. And so he's like running laps around the people who are sitting on the couch at home, so it doesn't matter where you're starting at. The fact is the moment you start moving your body, it's like not smoking. The second you're moving your body, it doesn't matter where you're starting from, just start moving your body. And if you can do it during all your coffee breaks, if you can do it at your desk, if you can get a Unsit desk treadmill, that would be awesome. But if you can't, then just get up a little bit earlier in the morning and go for a 15-minute walk with your coffee. Walk during your breaks, park on the other side of the parking lot so you can walk to, for me, my thing is Costco. We park as far away from the entrance, which is also very convenient because there's no other cars around. And then going to Costco, it's like you have to walk the football field to get to the Costco entrance, and then you're walking like another football field just to go around Costco. And so it's like I know when I go to these errands, I make sure that I'm doing a lot of walking during my errands. So trying to like make it a game, like how much walking can I get done today in between, during my breaks or during my errands, how much walking can I get done is sort of like the game to play. And I love this idea that, like you said, in 10 to 20 years, these offices are going to all be, yoga balls to sit on and balance boards and walking desks. I think that's fantastic. I think in the tech industry, like Silicon Valley, I know they're all doing it. I've watched reality shows with programmers and startup businesses in San Francisco, and they're all at standing desks and they're all walking. They're creating really intense apps and programming, these really amazing apps, and they're doing very, very intense work at standing desks and at walking desks. And so I thought, man, there's something to this. This is really exciting. That's why I was very excited to have you on the show today.
Facebook built this huge headquarters campus up in Palo Alto. And I'm an architecture buff, so I was looking at the LA Times here, they wrote it up. The architectural critic wrote up a review on the architecture of the new building. So they had some really nice photographs of the campus and the building, and then there was an interior shot of the offices. And I noticed every desk in the office was an adjustable height desk. Every desk. They bought 100%. All desks have the ability to adjust up and down so you can work sitting or standing. When I saw that, that's when I knew there's a wave coming here. This is about to take off. Here's a company, a new innovative company, and they made an investment, and they said every desk will go up and down to standing height. Now in the picture, not everybody was using it at standing heights, but the fact that they made that investment, they had to spend a lot of extra money, times thousands of desks, to have them all have that ability, because they knew this makes people are more productive, they're more creative, they have better ideas, their longevity is better, their health is better. So when I saw that, here's an innovative, cutting edge company like Facebook making that investment, I knew that we're on the cusp of something big happening. So that company you're dealing with in San Diego, yeah, they got the right idea. I'm convinced, Ashley, in 5, 10 years, we're going to look back and schools and offices will all be outfitted this way. Like I say, there'll be chairs in the lunchroom, there'll be some chairs in the conference room, but where people work and where people take class and study, no, they'll be on their feet. They will not be sitting.
Just a little bit more about this contraption that someone could get to walk on. How fast can it go?
We capped the speed at 2 miles an hour, and the reason we did that I had to meet up with a lot of resistance against our product developers who wanted it to go faster. When you're doing desk work, Ashley, talking on the phone, typing an email, maybe graphic artwork or accounting, you're doing a spreadsheet, or a lawyer's typing a legal brief. This kind of work, you don't want to go any faster. In fact, it turns out when we did a beta trial with the first dozen of these that we've made, and this continues to bear itself out with the 50 some odd users we have out there now, the average speed is 0.8 of a mile an hour. 0.8. That's less than 1 mile an hour. Two is few people even go up that fast now. So we capped it at 2 because mechanically and from an electrical efficiency point of view, we designed the machine to be 100% efficient at 2 on the electric motor. That translates to a much quieter treadmill and a much smoother treadmill, especially for a heavier person. I weigh 190 pounds, but we have people much heavier than myself walking on these things. If you go on a fitness treadmill in a gym and slow it down to 1 mile an hour, and a lot of them won't even go 0.8 of a mile an hour, most of them don't. But if you take it down to 1 mile an hour, you'll hear the motor making a whirring sound. And the reason is the motor is terribly inefficient at that slow speed, and it struggles and makes a lot of noise. And the belt has a lot of hesitation and variability in speed there. It kind of surges in speed. It doesn't feel very good, and it sounds terrible. So we made it 100% efficient at 2 miles an hour, which makes the machine very quiet and smooth at normal walking speeds. And then also from a safety point of view, when you're putting these things in an office environment, people aren't expecting a moving surface in an office. It's not like a gym where you're expecting, you're looking out for fitness equipment and you're more on guard for safety. In an office, people aren't expecting it. So we wanted this to be as absolutely safe as possible. So we capped the speed at 2 miles an hour. We also made it stop when you step off. Our treadmill cannot go unless there's somebody actually standing on the belt. As soon as you step away, it comes to a stop, which is very important because you leave the treadmill frequently to go to the printer, to go fetch something for your desk, to go to the bathroom, or whatever you might do. You don't want to come back and then unexpectedly step up onto a moving surface, or have a coworker who wasn't expecting it step up onto a moving surface. So with our product, that can never happen. We also, again, we made it extremely short, so it doesn't take up a lot of space behind your desk. It doesn't take up any more space than you have to allow for having a chair. So people ask, do I need any more space? No, you need about the same amount of space as your desk and chair has now, because we cut it off short. And then by making it wide, it not only allows you to use the whole width of your desk, it also means when you're standing on the product, and a lot of times you're just standing, you're not having to step up and down off of a platform that's stuck down under your desk. You're up on one platform and for the whole width of your desk. So it's very comfortable to stay there all day long and use it that way. Hey, let me go back and echo the walking on the parking lot if I could. Can I jump in on that for a second?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I live in LA, which is a car culture, and people are always fighting to get to the parking space that's closest to where they're going. And I just want to encourage people to do just what you said. I always park as far away as I possibly can. One, you have much less of a chance of getting into a fender bender and nicking your car. You get those extra steps in. You don't waste time fighting for the closer parking space. You end up getting where you're going actually faster. But you add in those hundreds of extra steps, and you do that several times a day, you can get to a few thousand steps just parking further away. And often I can avoid having to pay for parking. If I park a block away or so from my destination, I can often find a less expensive place to park, or a place that doesn't charge at all. So I'm saving money and I'm gaining steps. That's a huge little add to your lifestyle. If you get into the psychology of park further away from your destination, not closer. That's a big one. So I encourage people to do that.
Yes, excellent. And another thing is weather. So I'm originally from Canada, and although we would bundle up, for me it would take like 20 minutes if it's like -20 out. to bundle up in the several layers and then put my boots on and go for that walk, which was worth it because it was beautiful and crisp weather, and it was nice to walk in that. But a lot of times people will go, oh, it's too cold out, or it's too hot out, or look, it's raining, or insert whatever weather excuse here. Or maybe they are downtown, they don't want to walk in smog. So there's all these excuses sometimes that we use, or I'm on a street without a sidewalk, and so I have to really be careful about traffic when I go for my walks. So there's a lot of reasons that we can excuses we can give into for not walking. And again, that's sort of another plug that I'm giving you for why it's so cool to walk at your desk, since we spend more time at work than we do with our loved ones.
Actually, I'll give you one from Dr. William Castelli. Some of your listeners may have heard of him, but Dr. William Castelli ran the Framingham Heart Research Study in Framingham, Pennsylvania, which was a very famous study. They followed an entire town, an entire community of people for, I think, over 40 years. I think the study's still going on. It started after World War II. And they were trying to find what lifestyle, what aspects of lifestyle influenced heart disease was what they were focusing on. And so they followed this whole town, and they followed kids all the way through their life to grown-ups and the results of all this study, tracking people's activity level, what they ate, their diet, where they live, pollution levels around where they were, and then they were following their health outcomes primarily, again, for looking for heart disease. So Dr. William Castelli, very famous cardiologist, research cardiologist, at the end of this, decades of work he had done on all this study, his message to people was this. He said, walk your dog every day, even if you don't have a dog. So I encourage people to walk your dog every day. If you don't have a dog, go get one, or just pretend you have one. But those you'll meet your neighbors. You'll get some fresh air, and you'll greatly increase your health and well-being. Just a short little 15, 20-minute walks. The other thing I started doing, Ashley, after reading Dr. Levine's book and that study about the effects of walking on blood sugar level, I've made it a point every time I have a meal, especially if it's a sugary meal, and I avoid sugar, but sometimes you got to have a little to be social. I always take a 15-minute walk after every meal. Now, I've got the treadmill desk, which helps me a lot, but if people just added that one lifestyle change, every time you eat, 15 minutes of walking. It doesn't have to be a hard walk or a fitness walk. It can just be a casual walk. But you'll help burn down that extra, you'll smooth out that blood sugar spike in a big way. Just a 15-minute walk after every meal makes a huge difference.
Amazing, Rob Jacobs. It's been such a pleasure having you on the show. We didn't even get to talk about your vegan restaurants. I'd love to have you back at some point to talk about that, because I find that I love organic restaurants. I'm such a huge fan. There's only a small handful of organic restaurants here in Seattle, if you can believe. We're such a hippie, crunchy granola part of America, and yet we only have a handful. And I just wish that there were more and more. And I know they're going to be popping up. But I'm such a big fan. So you are helping people get healthy. You're helping support, it's like vote with your fork, right? You're helping support the organic farmers. So that's an entire different side to you that I'd love to have you back on the show to talk about, because I think it's so important, the impact of organic restaurants, and what kind of like behind the scenes, what it's like to have been in this industry for so long doing that. So please come back on the show for that. Listeners, please check out the show notes of today's podcast, the links to everything that Rob Jacobs has talked about today, including his really interesting standing, sitting desk and walking device for your standing desk will be in the show notes of today's podcast. Rob, I'd love you to just wrap up today's show. Do you have a testimonial or some stories to share about the success of your customers have had with your treadmill, with your Unsit treadmill?
I'll read a few right off of our website because we've got a bunch of them. But Jeff Olberg, who's up there in Seattle, is a financial advisor, and he was in our beta trial, had one of our first units, and we had to pull it out when we swapped him out for a production unit. He was without it for a few days, and he just found he couldn't focus. He didn't feel like even coming into the office to work anymore. He was kind of almost getting withdrawal syndromes from not having his treadmill desk. I have another lawyer here in LA who said that between work and raising a toddler, I don't have a lot of time or interest to head to the gym for exercise. So I've shed several pounds just by walking several hours a day while engaging in my normal workday activities. I highly recommend it. That's Eric Severinsen from Rains Feldman here in LA. John Scheinberg, a well-known movie producer here, said he lost 20 pounds on his Unsit Treadmill Desk, and he's done away with his sitting desk altogether. I do all my important calls, teleconferences, and emails on my Unsit Treadmill Desk. I wouldn't be without it. We have a couple at ZipRecruiter, which is a here in Santa Monica. ZipRecruiter does it's an online recruiting platform, and they've got a couple of they bought the treadmills and stuck them under some IKEA adjustable height desks that they already had going. And I'm searching for here. Amy Klimek is the HR director. Amy says, we tried the Unsit Treadmill Desk in our Santa Monica office as an experiment. People here love it, and some of them won't do without it. We purchased a second Unsit Treadmill Desk for our nearby satellite office. So there's a couple of them there. Dave, just a quick note on the organic vegan restaurants. You'll have to have my wife on the show. That's her business. Her name's Ann Gentry. That's realfood.com, Real Food Daily. And let me just tell your listeners, I know it's in your show notes, but unsit.com, UNSIT.com is our site, and the product is there. The Unsit Treadmill Desk, these testimonials I was just reading are there and more, along with the newsroom page, which has a ton of studies on creativity, productivity, and health and wellness and how it can be improved using an Unsit Treadmill Desk. So Ashley, really enjoyed being part of it. I've clicked past, I'm clicking towards 2.5 miles and cleared nearly 6,000 steps here.
Amazing, 6,000 steps. And aren't we supposed to do 10,000 a day?
10,000 a day is what the goal is. That will have a huge difference in your health and well-being, but I'm clearing that almost every day just on my normal work, my normal desk activities before I've even gone to the gym. And by the way, I'm glad to hear you're in Seattle. You sound like you're from Vancouver, but if you're up there, we do have my partners in Seattle. We've got an inventory of product up there. If anybody in the Seattle Tacoma area is interested in purchasing, we have local installers and technicians to help bring it out and set it up.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, I'm originally from Toronto, Canada, and so that's my Canadian accent. But I've been living here in the States for many years. I can't kick the about and house. I don't say A anymore. When a second I moved down here, my friends friends from the States would say, I'd say A at the end of a sentence, and they go B, C, and after about a week of being constantly teased, I just stopped saying A. But yeah, no, I can't say house or about like you guys do. But I love my accent. I love living here. Absolutely love the Seattle area, and I think the people are amazing. And I'm so excited to hear that you have a local ability to come and install this, because I think my feet are itching to get walking. So thank you so much, Rob Jacobs, for being on the show. It has been such a pleasure. I'll have to have your wife on for sure.
Thank you, Ashley. Walk on. And for those of you who are sitting during this podcast, get up and take a walk, will you?
Enjoy what you heard today on your episode of the Learn True Health podcast. Did something move you, inspire you? Did you get great information that's going to change your life? Awesome. That's exactly what I'm here to do, is to help you gain your health back. Please turn around and share this. If this is something that's helped you in any way, share this with those you love. Love the Learn True Health podcast and want to support us? Awesome. You can go to takeyoursupplements.com and you can support us that way. You'll get access to amazing supplements that are just really great quality for a great price. And there'll be someone on the other end of the line to help you pick out your supplements that are right for you. That's takeyoursupplements.com, or join our membership, learntruehealth.com/join. That's another great way to support our podcast, support our movement, and you'll be supporting yourself. Gain more information, wonderful videos, wonderful trainings, and you'll also be able to share those with those you love as well. So go to learntruehealth.com/join. Want something fun for free? Go to learntruehealth.com, and right there on the front page, you'll see where you can get our free cookbook. I spent a lot of time making it, and it was so much fun. It's really delicious, healthy recipes. And you can also get our 7-day doctor course. Right there, it's 7 days of naturopathic videos sent right to your inbox, and you can learn from top naturopaths on how to gain health naturally. So that's takeyoursupplements.com for wonderful supplements. learntruehealth.com/join to join our awesome membership, which is only open for a limited time. You can get our free healthy cookbook And you can also get for free 7 days of wonderful naturopathic videos sent to you. Just go to learntruehealth.com and you'll see it right there on the front page. Thank you so much for being a listener, and thank you for sharing and helping others. Let's spread this information and turn this ripple into a tidal wave.